Good morning. How are you? My name is Bob Colbert. I'm the podcast host for a brand new podcast. This will be hosted on the Only Space uh, YouTube channel. It's one of 11 channels that we have. Uh, and this particular podcast will be dedicated to strictly only space, as hence its name. So anything related to space, it'll be covered on this particular channel. Uh, in this particular podcast, and there may be other podcasts, we may host like a moon report to cover the Artemis generation of space activities by NASA. Right now, we're kind of focusing on the Starship development that's happening at the SpaceX complex in the Star Factory in Boca Chica, Texas. So they're fixing to start their fifth test flight pretty soon. They've had four at various levels of success, basically trying to look at all of the test parameters and mission parameters that it has to go through and get through to make sure that the design will cover those successfully. Yes, so if you're covering or if you're paying attention to what Elon Musk is doing, his goal is to develop a Mars colony or city and have like, I believe it was 1 million people eventually. That's quite a few. That'll take quite a few starships. But every 2 years, he would probably send out 1,000 ships heading to Mars. That's his thought process and stuff, and eventually colonize the planet Mars. Well, there's a lot of things that have to obviously go right to for that to succeed. But anywho, what we'll be covering on this particular podcast is the journey to Mars and how he plans to do that. So before I do that, let me go to the website and just kind of show you. I think I've got it. Yeah. So I'll take you over to the this site. So this is the Only Space website, YouTube channel. And as I said, it'll be only covering the activities associated with space. Right now, we're going to focus on Mars. So if you were to come down here, you'll see that there's some videos. Obviously, these are the long form videos. And then there's some shorts also in this channel, which we'll cover. And then here's our family of channels. I know it says favorite channels, but these are all of our channels. So if you were to uh, look at those, uh, the oldest channel is the ExplorationTV channel, which is this one, the blue with the, let me get this where I can manipulate it. So this is the oldest channel. It's ExplorationTV. And it has everything. It was mainly experimental at first. It's about 8 years old, I think, and it's got a lot of stuff on there. Very good stuff. So I invite you there as well as any of the channels. But what we found in Exploration TV was it was getting crowded. It was kind of losing its focus. So we decided to branch out and expand. So we created 60 BPM. This is was Shorts channel. So it was anything that's 60 second, and BPM, beats per minute, was obviously more related to music. So it's kind of a music, uh, short snippet films like you would see on TikTok and things like that. So in 60 seconds. It doesn't have to be 60 seconds. It could be up to 60 minutes. So it's just in my first thought process on that, I was thinking shorts at the time. The next one is Only AI, just similar to Only Space. This covers only artificial intelligence. And then the Elon Matrix channel, it covers everything related to Elon Musk, what's happening in his life, what's happening in his businesses, the developments, and things like that. Then you can come on. We have an Only Travel channel where it covers obviously only travel kind of things. We have the Robert Colbert vlog. I'm Bob Colbert, your host, so this is my vlog channel. And then we got 60 B-roll. This was similar to like 60 BPM, but it was more geared toward film. And instead of it being necessarily 60 seconds, it can be up to 60 minutes. So it's more to, and B-roll, if you're not familiar with that term in the film industry, what that is, when they start shooting uh, films and scenes and things like that. They'll film a whole passel full of different things, and then when it goes into the editing process, a lot of it gets scrapped. That's what we would call B-roll. It's just lay it on the floor, but it's still good stuff. The next channel is Only Deep Music. This would be deep house music, more like 10 to 20 minutes to an hour, that kind of a thing. And then we have Art Kathy Wood. If you're familiar with Kathy Wood, she covers disruptive technologies, of which Tesla's one of those, SpaceX, NVIDIA, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, things like that. So if you're into investing and disruptive technology, this is your channel. Also, I'm an investor myself, so I like this channel as well. And then we have sporting, which would have normally been only sports, but I have store instant replay, so I'm using that since I've started with it. So yeah, so that's 11 channels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9, 10, 11. So plus the Only Space, which we're on. And so I think you got it. I invite you to this channel. You can reach us at Only Space. And if you do come here and enjoy the content on here, we'll be hosting the podcast on the podcast part, which I don't see. Interesting. It may have to go under videos then. I thought I had a podcast here. I'll have to see. Anyway, but it should either be under podcasts or videos, one or the other. So we're going to go back to the subject for today. And what we'll be covering under this podcast is kind of do more of a little bit of a deep dive than what you would typically see in just a short video. So we'll get a little bit more in depth. So today, this is kind of more of an experimental first test. This is the first episode. I wanted to make sure everything's kind of working well and stuff like that. So what we're going to be covering here is transforming Mars could be easier than scientists' original thought. Let me see. This was written, okay, right here. Sorry. So this is Hannah Richter, and she wrote this article in here, and it was published on 7 August 2024, entitled Terraforming Mars Can Be Easier Than Scientists Thought. So just a little bit about her. Hannah Richter is a news intern at Science based in Washington, D.C., and originally from the Philadelphia area. She has a Master's of Science in Science Writing from MIT and a BS, Bachelor of Science in Environmental Science from the University of Chicago. Her work has appeared in Sky and Telescope, Ars Technica, GPH News, Circle of Blue, and Living on Earth. And she has published an ebook with NASA about the Fermi Gamma Ray Space Telescope. And Richter, she primarily covers environmental science and astronomy, with a particular interest in the process and the culture of science. So she wrote this, so we want to kind of talk about it. So the notion that, or the idea, is to create tiny rods made from Martian ingredients, dust, dirt, soil, regolith, whatever you want to call it. Get some of the ingredients in there that can be used to trap the heat and warm the planet. As you know, or you may or may not know, Mars has a very thin atmosphere, probably about 1% of Earth. And that atmosphere in billions of years ago was stripped away, continues to be stripped away even today by the sun's the cosmic winds coming from the sun, and it just kind of blows. There's not a magnetosphere or magnetic uh, protective spheres to keep charged particles from stripping away the planet. So normally in Earth, have like the Van Allen belts, and magneto type sphere that where the charged particles would kind of, like in an airfoil, just kind of go around the Earth, and that's what keeps our Earth protected. So Mars doesn't have that. So we'll have to create, as hopefully intelligent creatures that we are, we'll have to figure out an alternative way to protect that atmosphere and build it and grow it over time. So the idea in terraforming is to start with the current state and gradually make it look more and more like Mars. Earth. And so where humans can survive on this planet and thrive. So, being that the atmosphere is very thin, so one of the things they're going to have to do is figure out how to increase the thickness of the atmosphere, and then eventually make it where water can start forming and plants can start surviving, and then eventually humans. And this could take a very long time, but in here they're purporting that it can happen in very quickly. So here's what they're talking about doing. So one of the classic tropes of science fiction is terraforming Mars, warming up our cold neighbor so it could support human civilization. The idea might not be so far-fetched. Research published today in Science Advances suggests injecting tiny particles into Mars' atmosphere, even as thin as it is today, could warm the planet by more than 10 degrees Celsius in a matter of months. Researchers find that's significant because I believe it's like minus 90 C, something like that, very cold. And this would be enough to sustain uh, liquid water. Although the scheme would require about 2 million tons of particles per year, they could be manufactured from readily available ingredients found in the Martian regolith, dust, soil, whatever you want to call them. And it's not often that you get some really quite new, innovative ideas for terraforming, says Colin McMeans. He's a space engineer at the University of Glasgow, not involved with the work per se. The gap between where Mars is today and where Mars could be habitable is narrower than you might think. So although the water is thought to have flowed on Mars billions of years ago, what little of it remains today is frozen, particularly in the polar cap, ice caps. So under the soil, uh, with a thin atmosphere and a weak sun being as farther out into the solar system, the average temperatures are about 62 degrees C colder than most places on Earth ever gets, making the red planet suitable for crops and liquid water, and our own bodies will require a significant boost in temperature. Ironically, researchers think they could transform our planetary neighbor using the same mechanism driving global warming on Earth. So the general idea is to artificially create a greenhouse effect, says Samaneh Ansari, a PhD student at the Northwestern University and a lead author on this study. Scientists are trying to find a substance that, when injected into the atmosphere in large quantities, can trap the heat much like water vapor and carbon dioxide does on the Earth today. A previous study suggested lofting chlorofluorocarbons, the same ozone destroying compounds once used in aerosols such as hairspray, high into the atmosphere. In another recent study, researchers had suggested placing tiles of silicon aerogel, a transparent lightweight solid, on the ground to trap the heat in Martian soils, while also blocking harmful ultraviolet radiation. But the major barrier to both approaches would be cost. And with chlorofluorocarbons sparse on Mars' surface and silica gels requiring human manufacturing, huge quantities of each substance would need to be transported from Earth, a near impossibility with the rockets of today. And Ansari and her colleagues wanted to test the heat trapping abilities of a substance Mars does hold in abundance, dust. Martian dust is rich in iron and aluminum, which gives it its characteristic red hue, but its microscopic size and roughly spherical shape are not conducive to absorbing radiation or reflecting it back to the surface. So the researchers brainstormed a different particle using the iron and aluminum in the dust to manufacture 9 micrometer long rods. And that's about twice as big as a speck of Martian dust and smaller than commercially available glitter, basically glitter. Ansari designed a simulation to test how these theoretical particles would interact with light, and she found unexpectedly huge effects in how they would absorb the infrared light. Uh, she found unexpectedly huge effects in how that would be absorbed infrared radiation from the surface and how it would be scattered the radiation back down to Earth. Key factors that determine whether an aerosol particle creates a greenhouse effect. Collaborators at the University of Chicago and the University of Central Florida then fed those particles into computer models of Mars climate. They examined the effect of annually injecting 2 million tons of the rods 10 to 100 meters above the surface, where they would be lofted to higher altitudes by turbulent winds and settle out of the atmosphere 10 times more slowly than the natural dust of Mars. Mars could theoretically be warmed about 10 degrees C within a matter of months. The team found, despite requiring 5,000 times less material than other proposed greenhouse gas schemes, the 2 million tons of particles still represents about 6 Empire State Buildings and roughly 0.1% of the industrial metals mined on Earth each year. But because the rod's raw materials exist already on Mars, people could mine them on the red planet, the team said, eliminating the need for transport from Earth. Still, increasing the temperature of the planet is just one of the things that would be needed in order to live on Mars without any assistance. This is Juan Alde, a postdoctoral planetary science researcher researcher at the Open University not involved with this particular work. For one, the amount of oxygen in Mars' atmosphere is only 0.1% compared with 21% on Earth. The pressure on Mars is also 150 times lower than on Earth, which could cause human blood to boil. And Mars has no ozone layer, which means there's no protection from the sun's harmful ultraviolet radiation. And what's more, even once warmed, Martian soils may still be too salty or toxic to grow crops. In other words, McKean says upping the temperature isn't some kind of a magic switch that would make Mars habitable. But it's not stopping Ansari and her colleagues from investigating the possibilities. Next, they hope to manufacture and test their proposed nanorods in the laboratory, and also investigating the effect of different shapes and sizes and other ingredients such as carbon and magnetite. It's unlikely scientists will be conducting planetary scale engineering on Mars anytime soon, the researchers acknowledge, but Edwin Kite, a planetary scientist at the University of Chicago and a co-author of the study, says that terraforming research also shows how important it is to study Earth and can we understand climate and ecosystem enough to build that elsewhere on Mars particularly. Well, I'd like to thank Hannah Richter, the author of this particular note, and it caught my eye, so I thought I would use that as a test case for the first episode. So I think I'll stop it here, and if you have any questions, you can always list them into the comments below and stuff, and I invite you to uh, review the content of our channel and the other channels that I had mentioned, and invite you to subscribe and like and help support the channel in that way. Eventually, we'll get a Patreon page and span and look at more other monetization type of things. Right now, we're just trying to grow the content uh, in various ways, like podcasts, long videos, short videos, things like that. So yeah, so this is like as I said, the first episode for the Only Space podcast, which is called in this particular podcast called Mars Report. So, well, thank you for joining me. Join us next week. It'll most likely be around the 8 o'clock hour on Saturdays, uh, around on Pacific time, Pacific Standard Time. So, thank you for joining. Uh, I think I'll call it for today. And y'all take care, my friends. See you later.